We will mute people if necessary. I know sometimes I forget I'm not on mute and thump around. So, if there's a lot of background noise, we may mute you, but if you need to speak, just raise your hand. Rename yourself if your name is not correct. And that's it. With that, I think we are going to go over to Sam.
Yeah, thanks, Jen. So we typically kind of start our member meetings with a member recognition and executive director's report, but we're doing things a little bit out of order today because we're really excited to have Curtis Miller here, a legislative assistant with U.S. Senator John Fetterman, and he has some time constraints only till 4:30, so we wanted to make sure to get to be able to hear from him at the top of the meeting here. We invited Curtis to join us this afternoon because, as many of us know, 2023 is a Farm Bill year. Farm Bill comes around every 5 years or so, and it is really kind of a unique opportunity to have a huge impact on our food system. So we're excited to hear about an update really on kind of what's happening in current Farm Bill discussions and opportunities to get involved in advocacy around the Farm Bill. So I think with that, I will turn it over to you, Curtis.
Thanks so much, Sam. Hi, everyone. My name is Curtis, as Sam had said, introduced me. I'm legislative assistant for Senator Fetterman, mostly supporting his work on the Senate Agriculture, Nutrition, and Forestry Committee. So he's really excited about his appointment to that committee, given the importance of the Farm Bill in 2023 and his role in crafting that Farm Bill in his first year in the Senate. So he's also really excited to be the chairman of the subcommittee on food and nutrition, specialty crops, organics, and research, which I think is really exciting for this conversation we're having and most interesting to your organization. He also sits on the commodities and trade subcommittee, which is equally important to Pennsylvania, but he's very excited about his leadership on the first subcommittee. He actually had his first hearing at the subcommittee level last week. I'm not sure if anyone was able to tune in, but I'm happy to share the link of the recording after I'm done talking. I can share that in the chat, so you're all welcome to watch that and see kind of more of his priorities and what I'll share now through his remarks and the questions he had for the witnesses. But as I said, he's very excited that this is a Farm Bill year. And among many priorities he has, SNAP and food policy in general is a really important issue to him. He's taking his chairmanship of the subcommittee on food and nutrition very seriously, and protecting and expanding SNAP is a major priority for him. He's also very interested in modernizing SNAP so that it works for Pennsylvanians in the 21st century. We know there's a lot of other nutrition assistance programs that the USDA federally administers, but SNAP is kind of the main one in the Farm Bill. So I see that there's going to be some conversation about WIC and other things later. Super excited to work on those issues, just not necessarily a Farm Bill issue, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, he co-sponsored some specific legislation recently that Senator Gillibrand has been pushing out, the Closing the Meals Gap, which is kind of a comprehensive take on updating SNAP. So that he's been supportive of the USDA's update to the Thrifty Food Plan, and he wants to take that a step further, which is why he co-sponsored that bill, which would, among other things, update the USDA's cost for SNAP to the low-cost food plan, making sure that SNAP recipients receive even more money in their pockets to buy the groceries that they need every month. It would update Puerto Rico to be using SNAP instead of the nutrition assistance program that they use now, which is a block grant, something that Senator Gillibrand has heard, that we've heard. Many other things in there, like reducing barriers to eligibility, making it easier for seniors to access. He's also working with Senator Casey on the, I'll need to follow up on this one because there's been less advocacy on this one, but Senator Casey has a pretty comprehensive bill for senior nutrition from his position as the chairman of the Committee on Aging. And this one would largely reduce barriers for seniors and people with disabilities to access SNAP and other nutrition assistance programs. So that's kind of what he's working on. There's a lot of other SNAP proposals that we're considering and would be happy to hear any priorities that your organization has that I can take back to him. I know Senator Booker works on quite a lot of SNAP issues. Senator Gillibrand has many more SNAP bills than just the ones that I mentioned now that Senator Fetterman is already a co-sponsor of that we're looking at. And I think one thing that if you follow him on social media recently or interacted with our office, you'll hopefully know this, but he is opposing many of the harmful cuts that we've seen proposed by Republicans recently. So just he will be working to make sure that we're protecting against harmful expansions to work requirements and other restrictions on eligibility to SNAP and other social safety net programs. So that's what he's been working on. Very excited to continue working on SNAP, and I know we'll be working on some legislation that he'll be leading on, just kind of in the works right now, but happy to take any comments or questions now.
Great, thanks so much, Curtis. So yeah, if folks have questions and can use the raise your hand feature on Zoom, it should be down, kind of on the bottom of your screen. There should be a reactions button. You can press that and raise your hand. We can, take questions. So I see Jamie, you, have your hand up.
Hi, I'm driving. I'm sorry. His name's Curtis. Okay, I apologize. Hi, Curtis. My name's Jamie Christian. I'm the founder and executive director of an organization called Let Us Turn Up the Beat. We work with farmers, and we work with a lot of immigrant students and communities. And both of my children go to schools with large immigrant populations. My oldest goes to Young Scholars, and my youngest goes to an AIU Head Start in Baldwin Township. A huge issue at both schools, and I know at schools all over Western Pennsylvania. I'm actually working on a petition right now. Everyone is struggling with food waste, and it's because of not having culturally appropriate foods in schools and with farm to school programs. Now, I know that school lunches are a separate thing, but farm to school is part of the Farm Bill. Another thing is immigrant farmers, getting access to land and funding and technical support for grants and advisement or just some sort of advocacy for farmers in general. It's very much lacking in the state of Pennsylvania. There's, a lot of folks who are missing out on funding opportunities, particularly, minority farmers, but huge amount of immigrant farmers in Southwestern Pennsylvania who are looking for opportunities. And the more and more I speak with them, the more I'm finding out how difficult it is. So I was fortunate to go to the meeting on Saturday for Bread for the World that both Ann and Jody spoke at. And one of the gals said that they had conducted over 700 seminars throughout the country. And I had asked, is this a subject that had come up and had been addressed? And she said, no, but it is something that desperately needs to be addressed. So that's something that I would really, really like to see. And if Senator Fetterman would like to meet, I would be happy to, give all the information that I have and, provide all the interviews that I've done so far and the petition once we get it done. But it's something that's desperately needed.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. And I know that one thing we're hearing quite a lot about is farm labor, but it sounds like this is an even more nuanced issue than just labor on farms, but truly like the migrants that are leading the work on farms. And I think I'm having so many conversations about how these grant programs and these microloan programs can work for small farmers. And I know that the senator really does want this to be a farm bill that works for everyday Americans and small farmers especially. I think it would be really helpful to kind of look at some of the more specific programs. I know that there's the Farm to Food Bank program, which Senator Casey actually modeled after a Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture program and had it passed in the 2018 Farm Bill. So I think looking at that and other programs and seeing how they could be tweaked, like existing programs, how they could be tweaked to help these specific populations that you're referencing, that might be an interesting opportunity for Senator Fetterman to lead on.
Thank you.
All right, Dan, if you want to go next.
Thanks. I wanted to call out two things about the Beginning Farmer and Rancher Development Program, which has been a really large, I think, benefit to a lot of those trying to cultivate new farmers in the space. One is that the funding for that has been greatly outstripped by demand. And so there are now entities around the country who aren't subscribing or even bothering to apply to that program because their chances have been so low and so poor for so long. So I would just call out the amount of funding going to that program, given the need for ag labor around the country. And then related to that as well, the fact that at this point, pre-apprenticeships are not funded through that program, which for those of us who are trying to create on-ramps into the ag industry and food production spaces, we need to have both pre-apprenticeship and full apprenticeships funded and fundable at that higher level, whatever that turns out to be, in order to provide these programs nationwide.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. That's helpful. As I said, I'm having so many conversations. The Beginning Farmer and Rancher program is not one that's come up quite a lot, but I'm happy to take a look at that. But I mean, certainly understand how access to land is so important. I used to work for Congresswoman Houlihan and she represents Chester County, which has one of the highest land values in the state, but that just makes it so difficult for farmers to access land. And I mean, it's so close to the highest population center in the state, which just means that if you're pushing people farther out from those population centers, that's making food travel farther and pushing job opportunities away, because we know this is a highly viable job opportunity and the age of farmers is growing rapidly. So that's super helpful to hear and like look at how we might be able to address that. Thank you. Lisa?
Hi, thank you so much for joining us this evening. I just wanted to point out, I don't think Abdul is on this meeting yet, but regarding the last comment from the first person, I'm sorry, who was driving, the idea of diversity in the foods and the food boxes that are going into the community, it doesn't address the food needs of people who are in different cultural statuses. The immigrants are coming and they're using services to get food security. They often don't eat the type of food that traditional Americans have or eat. They don't supply halal. They don't supply anything non-pork. They don't supply the type of vegetables that they're accustomed to. How can the food boxes be more diversified according to the needs of the people? And I'd also add, for people who that I see, and we distribute the food boxes here, people who are suffering and going through chemo and radiation therapy, people who are afflicted with cancer, they also can't eat out of the boxes because, you know, their systems are vulnerable and weak. How can we propose foods that will support people on different ethnic backgrounds and physical ailments? Is that the right way of saying it?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely quite a lot of proposals around food as medicine. And I think that's something we're still considering and talking to the senator about his views on. When you talk about food boxes, are you talking about the commodity supplemental food program or a different program?
Yes.
Okay.
No,
Yeah, that's super
that
helpful.
program.
Okay, super helpful to know. I know that we're definitely aware of some of these cultural issues in schools and promoting school choice in dietary restrictions, understanding that dairy, for example, is something that many populations can't digest. So lactose intolerance is higher in prevalence among certain populations. So that's super helpful to know about how the CSFP food boxes are delivered and might not be culturally competent for certain populations. So again, something that I'm glad I'm here and learning this from you all, because it's not something that's coming up in a lot of the meetings that I'm having. So I'll take this back to the senator. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have one question for you as well. Other folks, feel free again to raise your hand if you'd like to ask a question as well. But just wondering if Senator Fetterman has any plans or interest in doing any kind of like listening tour or engagement kind of in Western PA specifically around the Farm Bill?
Yeah, so he did sit down with several farmers a couple weeks ago around the site of the derailment to talk about their issues partially around the derailment, but also just generally about Farm Bill. So it's not quite a listening tour. I think he was a little bit unable to do that because many senators were doing that last year before he was sworn in and had the opportunity to. I know he's really excited to be getting out and meeting with constituents and getting back to work now that he's out of treatment. I just don't know exactly what the plans are on that. But state staff are having many conversations and they're sending me pretty much daily what they're hearing from Pennsylvanians. I just don't know exactly what the plans are for the senator himself to get out and have a similar tour like what you're saying.
Got it. Thanks. All right. Well, does anyone else have any questions for Curtis here? I always like to give it an extra second on Zoom, just in case people are trying to find their raise hand buttons. And yeah, Adia, go ahead. Maybe this will be, I know you have a 4:30 cutoff, so maybe this will be our last one.
Yes, this is my last question. Thank you, Curtis, for coming today. I had a question about, my brother had shared a really cool video about the Farm Bill and how farm subsidies, only 7% goes to actual farmers that are growing fresh fruits and vegetables. How do we increase that? Because most of the subsidies are going to folks that are producing things for fast foods and not necessarily whole produce. So it's like ingredients to make, or like soy that goes to burgers for the food industry, like fast food industry. Can we shift that a bit?
Yeah, really good question, especially given Pennsylvania's unique agriculture industry with some really exciting urban opportunities, but also it's just a specialty crop state. So we know we have so many different types of fruits and vegetables growing in this state, unlike a lot of states that are primarily commodity production. So we don't have too many like specific policy priorities and proposals more so around shifting farm subsidies. It's something we're definitely taking a look at and talking to committee staff about how, like, what other members are advocating for, what actions are possible. One thing that we are interested in, and the senator is working on, is expanding crop insurance to more specialty crop producers. So right now, commodities are eligible and only 5 specialty crops are eligible for crop insurance. So while it's not directly answering your question because it's not exactly a subsidy, it is part of the farm safety net. And it's something that would go a long way to helping a lot of specialty crop producers in Pennsylvania and across the nation.
Thanks, Curtis. All right, Lisa, you want to get one last word in?
One last question. I would ask if you could champion the case for us, or Senator Fetterman would champion the case for the marginalized or socially disadvantaged or beginning farmers. On most USDA grants, they're asking for one-on-one matches. Sometimes that's very hard to do if you're just a beginner, or if you don't have capital, you're starting out, and especially in the urban environment. And we can't compete versus rural. We don't have those startup funds. And if there could be a better method for that one-on-one match, or somehow to accommodate beginning farmers, so that doesn't have to be an obstacle in applying for those grants, we would greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. I know that's something that we're definitely interested in. I think one thing that he's heard from other Pennsylvanians about this directly. And he actually asked Secretary Vilsack, sorry, when he testified before the Senate Agriculture Committee about Pennsylvanians and what he's hearing. And there's Pennsylvanians in Erie, Pennsylvania, for example, that are not able to access these urban ag resources because offices are telling them that they don't exist, and offices are not entirely trained on this. So the senator really wanted to ensure that Secretary Vilsack is paying attention to Pennsylvania cities and urban residents in Pennsylvania. So it's something we're actively working on, actually, but I appreciate you giving me that specifics. And we'll continue doing that.
And then vice versa. Sometimes we're not under the clear understanding that rural grants also are inclusive of urban
Yeah.
farmers. But then there are exclusive grants that are only exclusive to rural. If that can be made clear, that would give
Okay.
everybody a better understanding. Thank you. And that was the last thing.
Of course. Thank you. Well, thank you for having me today. I think our office is very responsive. I always hear my colleagues on the phone talking to constituents, so please do reach out. And I think I forget exactly who was in touch to schedule this, but I'm happy to set something up separately. So I will leave you all to the rest of your meeting, but thank you so much. Have a good one.
Yeah, thanks so much for
Thank
joining us,
you.
Curtis. Really appreciate it.
Bye now.
Thank you. Bye.
Great.
Sam, can you put his
Sorry, Jim, were you going to ask to put us to put his contact information in the chat? I think you cut out. I actually don't have it. Carlin was the one who was setting up, who was in communication with him. So you can get it from Carlin and share it after the meeting.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We're actually ahead of time. So Sarah is going to do a deep dive with SNAP and WIC changes for about 15 minutes.
Well, I'm actually turning this over to Anne. I don't know, I can't find her in here. Did you turn your camera on, Anne? There you are. Hi. Okay.
I'm here. Yes.
Yeah, and a slight update. Brittany Zwergel is sick, so she will not be joining us today. So we're going to send the WIC update via notes as well. But go ahead, Anne.
So Sarah asked me to talk a little bit about what's going on with SNAP at the state level in Governor Shapiro's proposed budget, which was released in March. First, I just want to start with a little bit of a backdrop about what I think almost everyone on this call probably knows, that the emergency SNAP benefits ended. The last payment of those went out at the end of February. So starting in March, people are only getting one payment each month in their SNAP benefits. The pandemic extra payment was at least $95 a month for each household. And it was a second payment that had been coming to families for the last 3 years. That was a lot of food assistance money coming into Pennsylvania, about $194 million. Sorry, I forgot a big word there, $194 million of food assistance every month. When that went away, benefits fell to about $2 per meal on average. And so we are sort of back to the sad normal of SNAP benefits not being adequate for individuals, people running out of benefits by the third week of the month. So one of the things that we are doing at Just Harvest is sort of documenting the harm of what that means for families and how families are coping. We have, I'll find and drop the link in the chat shortly, a story collection form on our website where people can put whatever they would like to share about their situation. And if they're interested, we have been starting to do interviews with families just to talk about what SNAP means to them, what the extra SNAP helped them do, and what it's like for them without those benefits. And that is being used in our Farm Bill advocacy, just to remind people that SNAP benefits are not adequate and they need to improve SNAP benefits for everybody. And we are also using some of those stories to talk to folks at the state level about some of our state proposals as well. So at the state level, what we had asked for was two relatively modest proposals. The first one was to increase the minimum SNAP benefit for seniors and people with disabilities. This is something that's done in Maryland, and a couple of other states. This is not as ambitious as what folks in New Jersey have done, which is their SNAP minimum for everyone is $95 a month, which is great and exciting. We did not think that was realistic for Pennsylvania. The price tag on that would have been, people would have just scoffed at it. So what we had proposed was increasing the SNAP minimum benefit for individuals, folks with disabilities. The SNAP minimum benefit is $23 a month. We had said it should be increased to 40. In Shapiro's budget, he increased it to 35, which is about a 50% increase. It's a $16 million budget item. We know that seniors are, they often don't get the correct amount of benefits that they need because they often don't document their medical expenses because it requires getting all of the receipts from everywhere. And it's really hard to do that. And they're also least likely to participate in the program amongst, they're one of the most under participating populations in SNAP. Only about 61% of eligible seniors participate in SNAP. And a lot of that is because they're like, I'm only going to get the minimum. What am I going to do with $23 a month? That doesn't, what does that buy? This is to really help support those seniors that we know are like just on the edge there, and give them a little bit of a bump. And then the other thing that we had proposed was supporting purchasing fruits and vegetables by supporting food bucks. That was not included in Shapiro's budget. However, there is legislation that was reintroduced. It is Senate Bill 552, of which many of the senators from state senators from Allegheny County co-sponsored, that would invest in food bucks at the state level. But it was not included in Shapiro's budget. So that's kind of all that's going on with SNAP in terms of the state budget. There's all kinds of other things in the state budget. I don't know if you want me to talk about that, Sarah. I can a little bit.
Yeah, feel free. Since Brittany's not joining us, we have a little bit more time. So maybe not everything, but if you want to do a few more highlights, that would be great.
Sure. So there was also money in Shapiro's budget for fresh food financing initiative. There was $2 million that was put in there. Historically, that had been run through the DCED, the Community Economic Development. But for some reason, which I have not learned, maybe someone at the Food Trust knows this more than I do, it was proposed to go through the Department of Agriculture. But it is fresh food financing is used for grants to support healthy food retail access, is what that had been used for in the past. Other good things that were in Shapiro's budget was keeping free school breakfast for all. It did not expand to all free school meals for all, just free school breakfast, which is what we currently have in Pennsylvania. That has to be put in the budget this year. Governor Wolf kind of made that happen doing an administrative maneuver. So we need legislation in order for that to continue. And also in his proposed budget was to move all of the kids who are in reduced price school meals to cover the difference so that they are in free school meals, and to wipe out all of the school debt that currently exists in Pennsylvania. So that was also included in his budget as well.
Great, thanks, Dan. It's a lot of good and I guess some not as good. Lisa, did you have a question for Ann?
I did have, Anne, you mentioned the fresh food funding initiative. Is that only, who's administering that other than the Food Trust? Do you know?
So that, I don't know if, I honestly don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know if Bridgeway was part of that or not. Maybe someone else on the call knows the answer.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if it had been funded last or how long, when the last time was funded either. It kind of is occasionally funded and not funded, I think.
Okay, thanks.
I
Lisa?
thought that Bridgeway was one of the funders, administrators.
Yeah, they had been in the past. I would assume that they still are, but
Seems like we can include that in the notes too, or I can get in touch with you directly, Lisa. We can ask our partners at the Food Trust and Bridgeway and make sure we know what's what on that question.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for Anne? Adia.
And pretty good at raising my hand. And I was curious, does the funding end for the summer lunches for children? So kids were given like basically EFT cards
Mhm.
for the summertime. How has that gone to?
So Pennsylvania, they told me, I have not seen a plan or that a plan was submitted or approved. But they told me that they are submitting a plan to USDA to do that again this summer. It will be significantly less. The federal Congress reduced the dollar amount. It'll only be $120 per kid for school age kids.
whole
And
summer?
then for the whole summer. So much less than last year. That is what the permanent summer program will be when that goes into effect 2024. It will be $120 per kid each summer. But yeah, it's not great, but they are going to do it again.
Thank you. I know that a lot of families that wouldn't have otherwise been eligible for food stamps were utilizing that to supplement their bills.
Yeah.
And with inflation and the cost of food going up, that would have been super helpful right now. Thank you.
Ms. Sam and then Laura.
Yeah, Anne, I just had a quick question. I was wondering the storytelling or the story collection that you all are doing at Just Harvest on, the kind of impact of the snap cuts, just kind of how long you'll be collecting stories for. And I mean, that's on the website, right? Is the best way to kind of share that to direct people to participate there?
Yeah, the website is probably the best way to direct people to participate, or I think on the website it has Dana's phone number. People can call Dana and talk to her and tell her their story if they want to. And actually I have the link. And we are actually, that's a statewide effort. So a lot of the stories that we have, they're stories from all over the state. We're gonna keep collecting them through, we had said mid-May. I think we already have like 60 or 70 quotes. And like 20 people who are interested in being interviewed. So then we're going to start switching to interviewing folks and doing these stories and things like that. Sharing stories with members of Congress.
That's great. That's a lot. We'll be sure we have it sharing out on our social media and in the newsletter too, but we'll include and I just saw you drop the link in the chat. We'll make sure that's in the notes as well. And then Laura, I think you were next.
Hi. I think this is slightly tangential, but with the ending of the public health emergency, I know also that Medicaid disenrollments can start again.
Mm-hmm.
And I would assume that's also affecting people. Like, those are in some ways going to be related stories. But I have seen significantly less coverage of that than I have of ending the SNAP payments. Do you know of anywhere that is doing the same sort of work with Medicaid disenrollment?
So Pennsylvania Health Access Network and Pennsylvania Health Law Project are doing a bunch of work related to they call it the unwinding.
Yeah.
They're doing a bunch of tracking related to that, including case closures, and I believe they're doing story collecting as well. Yeah.
Thank you.
One of the things I forgot to mention this, because Medicaid and SNAP are processed by the same office, they actually reduced some of the SNAP requirements temporarily. So for the next year, there's no interviews required for SNAP recipients at application or recertification. Just so makes it easier on their caseworkers and processing all of the paperwork.
Great, thanks. If
Sorry,
no one
I
has
was
any-
being asked permission to go outside. I'm like, yes,
Oh.
you can. Yes.
You're getting questions from all sides here.
Yes.
Yeah, if there are no other questions for you on Zoom, we'll go ahead and move on, and then just, feel free to drop questions in the chat if anything occurs to you. So I think you're up, Joe.
All right, good to see you all. Hope you are doing well as we move into spring. I wanted to give you some updates. The first is we have a board election coming up. Pittsburgh Food Policy Council became an independent organization last June. So this is like our second real board election for this board. So if you're interested, we have a couple seats. It's going to be in the areas of youth, food entrepreneurship, and just general. So let us know. We're going to post a nomination form soon. We'll have it in our newsletter, but if you are interested, you can reach out to me. It's a 1 to 2 meetings a month commitment, and look forward to talking to you about that. If you are on the board, put a symbol in your video, like a thumbs up right now. I'm just trying to make this a little more engaging. Adia's leaving. We have to give Adia some love. She's going to be rolling off. Dan's sticking around. Awesome. These are good thumbs. So you can see some of the cool folks on the board. We're working on our strategic plan to help to kind of direct the work going forward of the Pittsburgh Food Policy Council. We have over 150 strategies in the Greater Pittsburgh Food Action Plan. So we're trying to create a bit of focus as well as some internal structuring. But we'd love your input, and we're going to have some time at the next member meeting. So make sure you come to the June membership meeting to help inform the strategic plan. Let's see. We are starting to plan for the Pittsburgh Urban Farm Tour. It's us, Grow Pittsburgh, East End Food Co-op, PASA, and City of Pittsburgh, as well as farmers. So if you are interested in helping to plan the tour, or you are interested in being on the tour, we're going to be sending around a form again that you can fill out if you're interested in your farm being on the tour, and we'll try to accommodate as many folks as we can. So contact me though if you're more interested in like the planning team. You can put my email in the chat, and raise your hand or put a heart or a symbol if you have been on the farm tour or are on the planning team for the farm tour. I see a couple hearts, couple thumbs coming up. Awesome. And raise your hand or make a symbol if you have attended the farm tour. Who's been out and around? Okay, I see Denny's physical hand. Masood clapping. Love it. Ebony. Great. So yeah, we're excited about this year, and we're just hoping that we're just trying to open up the process a little bit, make sure all the voices are included. Last month, we did a presentation on the Regional Food System Partnership Grant that we got from the USDA. And there's some components of that we've been moving forward. One is an institutional purchasing. So taking the good food purchasing policy at Pittsburgh Public, advancing that. So continuing to work with the Pittsburgh Public Schools to implement that, but also looking at how that policy can be, similar policies can be adopted at the university level, the health system level. Anybody that's preparing a lot of meals, we want to make sure that they're prioritizing local sourcing, prioritizing, farms that pay people well and use sustainable practices and things like that. So that's called the institutional purchasing. We're also going to be working with PASA to help identify barriers at the farm space to serving those larger institutions. We also had our first convening of the financial investment food funders group. So trying to get folks that fund within the food system to understand what's being funded. Some surveying will be done of the funders. And we'll also be surveying some of our members to see what barriers folks are having to accessing funds. And we'll also be hiring a grant writer or a series of or a group of grant writers to support your organizations, especially smaller organizations that don't really have the capacity to apply for some of the money that's out there. So be on the lookout, that stuff to come, but it's all getting moving. We have some folks, I think Sally was here, United Way, give her a shout out. She's still here. What else here? Oh yeah, Sally. And then the food summit. So February will be our first regional food summit. And we did have a school, what was it called, Sarah? Sorry. School food summit.
The Regional School Food Summit back in 2019.
Yes, 2019, but this will be more broadly Regional Food Summit, and we're convening a planning committee. We put out a call for applications for folks to serve on the committee, and we received, I think, over 30 applications for 7 slots. So we're kind of working through all those. We're grateful for everybody's interest. We, hope everyone will be engaged on some level. And we are providing some stipends to folks to participate, especially those that aren't typically paid to serve at these tables. And I did want to note there's a lobby day coming up May 1st. If anyone wants to go to Harrisburg, join the PA Meals for All Coalition, talk to Sarah, or there's a bus going with Pittsburgh United, some housing folks that are also going to be having a bus if anyone needs a ride May 1st. And then lastly, a member survey was recently completed. So you'll find out about that. Erin's here. Thanks, Erin, to share the results. Does anyone have any questions for me? All right, awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Cool. Erin is going. Thank you so much for that update, Joe. Erin is going to talk a little bit about the survey results from the self-assessment survey that was done, I guess, in the fall.
Yeah, so my name is Erin Spangler. Some of you may know me from working at the food bank, but I had the pleasure of doing my practicum for my master's in public health with the Food Policy Council. And I was really interested in particularly how an organization with as many different partners and the extensive reach of the Food Policy Council, how do you actually evaluate the impact of all of the relationship building that goes on among members, among the staff, and that sort of thing? That's sort of an intangible that's hard to quantify. So ultimately, we found that there was a tool and a member survey that was done in 2021. If some of you remember that, it's called the Food Policy Council Self-Assessment Tool. And so rather than reinventing the wheel, this really presented an interesting opportunity to take a look at, what members said in 2021 about how well the council functions and interactions between members and some synergy and relationships and that sort of thing, and what people are saying now in 2023. So I think ultimately I've got an executive summary, so a one sheet front and back that'll give you sort of a high level overview, but just to give you some highlights. Oh, and Sam put it in the chat. You're amazing, Sam. So if you'd like to follow along, I'm happy to do that. But I think this assessment tool looks at 11 different dimensions that are associated with good collaboration among members. And so by measuring, those different dimensions, we can sort of figure out where are there areas of strength for the policy council and how do you make sure that you continue doing the good work you're doing to support that, as well as what are areas for improvement that can help increase and facilitate good collaboration. So among those different indicators of success, our particular areas of strength for PFPC was knowledge. So increasing people's knowledge about the food system, about strategies for addressing challenges in the food system, but also just knowledge of what other organizations that are represented at the table are doing. Leadership. So thank you, PFPC leaders and staff, for showing leadership, being open to new ideas, being receptive to people's approaches and inviting people to the table. And then I think the one in particular that was an area of strength was relationship building. And that was something that really increased from 2021 to 2023, which was really surprising because we're all virtual now. And I think there's this common assumption in community building and community organizing that people have to be at the same table in the same room at the same time. And, this sort of shows that, yes, really good collaboration and connection can happen virtually. And it's happening here. And you can sort of see that borne out in some of the successes that PFPC has achieved in the past year. And so areas for improvement, just to highlight, so some are related to the survey and the constraints of the survey, but some I think are areas that I've encouraged and in my report have encouraged the team to consider addressing in the future. So one is council structure, one is council climate, and one is membership. So first and foremost, making sure that membership reflects all sorts of different sectors and all those different corners of the food system, which I can very much see here today. But making sure that members of the council also include people from communities that experience some of the systemic inequities in our food system and making sure that their voices are included. Obviously, the Food Ambassador Program has made a huge impact in increasing the awareness and representation. But I think the other two, one in particular, was making sure that there are some processes in place if there are any conflicts or disagreements on the council. So that was something that changed from 21 to 2023. And I think the other thing was making sure that when new people join the council, that they're aware of all of the work that goes into managing this group so that they know that there's a shared mission and vision and that they understand how many different players are at the table and what people's different roles are. So those were just some areas for improvement. But overall, the diversity represented on the council in terms of demographics has increased over time. There's more men represented on the council than there was in 2021. There's more people of color, particularly Black and Black multiracial representation on the council. The council itself is aging a bit, and that may be because people who took it in 2021 are in a new age group. But I think the other interesting thing is in terms of council roles and the length of time that people have been on the council, the majority of people, and there might be some of you here today that represent this, have participated for less than 2 years. So that means that this group has been able to engage. So it was 48% or so has been a member for 2 years or less. So that really means that, despite all of the challenges that COVID has presented and working virtually, that people are still engaged and joining and continuing. So I think there's some great opportunities to activate some of those members. And yeah, this was a really interesting project. This is the kind of survey that can be done sort of over time. I think that was what was most interesting. The vast majority, if we look at all of these 11 dimensions, PFPC improved across all 11. So there were those areas of improvement, but I think, again, despite the challenges of the pandemic, synergy and this ability to collaborate in a virtual world seems to be working pretty well, even though we'd love to see everybody in person. Perhaps at the urban farm tour in the end of the summer. Yeah, but it was a pleasure working with the staff and helping with some projects here and there. Yeah, and I have a more detailed report that I've shared with staff and will be available for the board if they're interested as well. And I think that's it. Any questions, anyone?
Thank you so much for that.
I don't have a question, but just wanted to say thanks so much, Erin. It was really, really a pleasure working with you, and I know it was a lot of hard work putting this report together. And yeah, just appreciate all of your work and contributions. And we'll miss having you as part of the team. And also wanted to wish you, if I'm remembering correctly, a happy birthday. Today's your birthday, right?
It is my birthday. So yeah, the sun is shining in Pittsburgh. I get to talk about food and the hard work I did. So thank you.
Erin, this is really great. I am curious if this set of questions has been used by other food policy councils.
Yeah. Yes, so this is actually, it's a validated tool. It was tested on over 200 food policy councils across the US and in Canada. So it's, something that I pointed out in the report to staff is, are there some questions here that don't really relate to PFPC specifically? And absolutely, yes. So there are some issues there, but it's been sort of widely tested, and the 2021 administration of the survey was actually done by the survey developer, and it was part of that sort of cohort to test things out. Yeah.
And so we do, of course, like internal surveys for Harvey. And the two things that are really interesting always are like, what's the delta between the last survey and the current survey? And then how does it compare to other organizations like our own? So I'd love to see that kind of, maybe not super detailed, but just kind of like, oh, here are the big movers and here are the ones that we could, where we're surprisingly above or below everybody else on X, Y, or Z axis.
Well, and that would be an interesting next step. So I just compared results from 2021 and 2023 for PFPC.
Yeah.
And there was a close enough number of people that participated each time. So there were 46 members of the policy council that responded to the survey. So in terms of increases, in terms of statistically significant, so the ones that increased and aren't necessarily or potentially caused by chance was an increase in the relationship topic area and the relationship in synergy. So again, relationships is talking about communication and coordination and trust. And synergy is really about deepening partnerships. So those were the two areas in particular that saw the biggest increases, or were not due to a potential outlier. Someone said something really, really positive and someone said something negative over here. And this was just to point out, you'll see on the back of the sheet that Sam shared, people were given a 5-point scale from strongly disagree to strongly agree. So calculating an average score for each item. So that's how we measured that difference. But those were the ones, but there was a statistically significant increase from 2021 to 2023 overall.
I'll just jump in to add, we did the first iteration that Erin's talking about, we did do with Larissa Galancy, who's the researcher at Tufts who created the tool. So if there's interest in how that looked for other food policy councils that participated, we can share that out too.
Yeah, she was super easy to get in touch with. I had some questions, she answered them. So that's great to know too.
Thanks, Erin. I'm going to I think if we don't have other questions for Erin, maybe Adia, do you want to share a member recognition?
Yes. Today, we are recognizing a new author in the mix. If we can all celebrate Ebony Evans, who has been a very active member of the Policy Council, has written a wonderful children's book. Ebony, do you want to take a minute to share? And I believe we're going to drop the link. Oh.
Yeah, y'all see me. Y'all see me.
Yay!
I dressed up just for y'all today. No. I'm really on my way to go and do a reading, but yeah, thank you so much just for recognizing me today. Yeah, I wrote this children's book with a group of toddlers over in Wilkinsburg that I've been working with for about 4 years now. These toddlers, I've been working with them since they were about 1, and they are now, most of them are in kindergarten now, and have moved on from the childcare center that we did this at. But it's a really fun book filled with lots of colors and rhymes, and for the ages of about 1 to about 7. And all the characters in the books are real. All the words are words that we literally have said while growing in order for them to remember how to grow and all the elements that it takes to get a powerful plant. And I also hired a young Black college student to illustrate the book. She did a wonderful job. She was even able to skip past some finals with the finished product produced for her professors. And so just really excited. So the book is available on Amazon. It's about $12. It's great.
Read the book. Read the book. No. Can we hear
Buy
it?
this book now.
We have to buy it. That's fair.
I am on my
I
way to
just
do a
bought it.
reading, like literally. I'm on my way to do one. So that's why I'm all dressed up. So.
I just bought one.
Did
So
you?
everyone should go.
You have to bring your kid over, so I'll do it, or I'll do a nice reading, because it's really great when you hear the reading, and it helps you understand a lot more. So
That's awesome. In charge of this rodeo.
Wait, I'm sorry. I said all that and I was on mute. Thank you so much, Ebony, for that. Now I'm going to open up the floor for any members that have any news to share. We could do raising of hands.
Well, I know I'm new here, but at Harvey, we do grocery delivery and we buy primarily from local farms. And we have just submitted, like in the last month, to get our SNAP certification. So we'll be able to do all of the, we'll be able to support people purchasing online through SNAP. There is one, apparently, we're working with a great company called Forage that has helped some companies do this in the past. And there's a challenge with it that I wasn't aware of until very recently, which is SNAP requires you to have a physical location as well at this current time. So we're kind of trying to figure out how we're going to handle that.
Are you saying that the farmers have to have a physical location?
So Harvey, the company that I work for, we don't have a physical retail facility.
Okay.
There's a change hopefully happening to SNAP soon that will allow us to qualify, but we're kind of like waiting for that to happen.
Thank you for clarifying.
Kyle, I don't know if you guys have talked, you probably haven't, but Jen is on this call. I know 412 Food Rescue, you guys had the SNAP CSA. I wonder if the workaround you guys used could work for them.
We actually had, they had to come to our office to pick it up. We had the machine that allows the purchaser to use their SNAP benefits on it, and that was located at our office.
Okay, so maybe we can do that and do. That's interesting. Okay.
I mean, we should talk about it because potentially we might be able to help figure out a solution for that with you.
That'd be awesome. Yes, hi, Sarah. We did meet.
Cool. Denny?
In the same realm of recognition, I've just put a link. And I know there's several people from Greater Pittsburgh Community Food Bank on this or at this meeting, but they were selected by WESA and Giant Eagle as the community champion for April 2023. And if you click and watch the full thing, you can actually see Aaron's, even more of Aaron Spang. Congratulations.
Reminds me of our Today Show, folks. Our 412 food rescue.
I was going to mention that. Yeah, so that was very exciting. We were on the Today Show this week, or Food Rescue Hero was. So if you haven't seen it, check it out. It was a really good story. It was lovely. So that was kind of a highlight, especially as somebody who grew up watching the Today Show. But the other thing I actually wanted to say is that we have with us for the next 12 weeks a community engagement. Oh my God, what is it? Community engagement exchange fellow from Tanzania who is on a US funded program to put them with nonprofits to learn how US nonprofits work. And he does a lot of work on things like ending gender violence in his home country of Tanzania. We'll be introducing him to a lot of local organizations. I want to bring him to one of our PFPC meetings before he goes home. He just got here 2 days ago, so I didn't want to overwhelm him. But you can look for us out in the community, and I look forward to introducing him to a lot of you.
Cool, thank you. Anybody else have news to share? Questions for the group?
Great.
Sam?
Yeah, not really news or update, but just wanted to like acknowledge welcome Dan back. I like called on you earlier, Dan, and then I was like, wait a minute, Dan, you're back. But yeah, hope you and the baby and family are all doing well, and good to see you back.
Thanks. Good to be back.
Right. Well, if there's no other member updates, if nobody has any other member updates, just want to remind folks that our next member meeting is in June. I believe it's June 27th. I literally just looked at that date so I could tell you, and now I don't know if that's right. Yep, June 27th. So be on the lookout for the link to register for that. And we hope to see you all back there. Is there anything else, Joe, that we want to leave them with, or Adia or anybody? Farm tour, September 23rd. Don't forget that date. Put that on your calendar.
Enjoy the spring. Take advantage.
Yes.
And let me know if I can come see what you're working on. I'd love to come out.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.